Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and welcome to a little slice of Enclave history. Today, we'll mark the first time in Advent Edition that a character is going on a mission which may reach level 10 for them. Suto is level 9, with, I believe, 5 missions? Progress towards level 10? I think that's what the question is. Which means that by the V2 errata rules, he is one mission away from level 10. So, let's see if he makes it today. I got a pretty exciting one planned for him. It's a solo mission, just Suto by himself. And let's hear a little bit about this character. Take it away, introduce yourself, please, and then give us a summary of Suto in all his glory.
Sure. All right. Hello. Hi. I go by Meekable on the server. You can call me Meeks or Meek. I don't care at this point. And I was introduced to Enclave in late July of last year, and I immediately hooked onto it because it gave me the freedom to do a lot more role playing, and it was just a lot of fun. So throughout the past 6 months, I've been working on this one character. His name is Superman Naruto, aka Suto Merriman. Even though his name started off as a joke, the more that his character progressed, he came out to be more of a complex character than I think even I initially thought he would ever be. But he is a Thunderbird, meaning that he does the flying thing, the lightning thing, the weather thing. But what makes him stand out is that he actually, in his day job, is a baseball player for his local minor league team. He is also a father, married to a beautiful wife, and have two lovely young children, affectionately named Diana and Sailor Moon. Yes, the names were intentional. So, the other highlights about Suto is that he didn't know that he had lightning powers until he was on what's it called recruited by the Enclave, and instead of freaking out at this supernatural phenomena, of course he's all like, "Let's go! What's that? I got powers!" So extremely excited, and that kind of energy and enthusiasm has carried throughout all of the missions that he has been through. He has been through some very crazy missions where he is trying to get rid of some mold question mark out of a hotel. There's been some very dire missions that involve Eldritch horrors that have literally removed body parts from him, but it's okay, he got better. Thanks to Enclave Medical. He's also met a lot of great friends, both NPCs and other players. And so, to those other players, I just want to say a big, big, big thank you. You guys are super important to Suto's journey. I would say that, in fact, all of you have made Suto to be the character, the man, the baseball boy that he is today.
Couldn't agree more. Very well said. Suto is a wonderful character who has truly made his impact on the game, and now we get to see him go solo against an old face. Recently on the YouTube channel, as of time of recording, we put out an actual play, the last one we put out, called Clouds Join Hands. This was recorded actually quite a while ago when Suto was but a lowly level 5, and it involved him taking on an, at the time, former Enclave agent named Clouds Burn Bright, who, as it happened, was a Thunderbird, and Suto was joined by two other Thunderbirds player characters, so it was an all Thunderbird brawl, and made for extremely good viewing content. But, most notably on that mission, the character Clouds Burn Bright and Suto had a bit of an interesting dynamic. They developed a bit of a connection there. They have some similarities, and as such, Meek specifically requested that Suto's capstone mission have something to do with Clouds Burn Bright, and that is what we are going to be doing today. The focus words I got on top of the general Clouds Burn Bright request are as follows. 1. Promise. 2. 50 Thunderbirds in a closet. 3. Prove you are the better bird. And with that, here is your mission statement today. Clouds Burn Bright. He's back in the Enclave. That was the original premise of the mission, that where you met him, you were trying to reconvince him to rejoin the Enclave, and he's back in. However, he is a very powerful Thunderbird. And he has found that there are other things that are demanding his attention. And as such, he has hired the Enclave as an agent today. He normally would be on missions, but today he's the employer for one. And he has specifically requested of the Enclave a Thunderbird worthy of him, which is why they have called on Suto. Here is your mission. You have been called to duel Clouds Burn Bright in front of his 200 daughters. They are an important part of this equation. Clouds Burn Bright is a bit of a demigod, and I do say that in the loosest possible term. And he has immaculately conceived 200 beautiful young girls of varying states of superpower and, how would I put it, corporeality. And unfortunately, being a very powerful demigod with a huge track record in the Enclave means that his many children have become somewhat complacent and even defiant, thinking themselves better than the world because of their birthright, all but unassailable. And so he has called for the Enclave to send a champion in to duel him and show his children what the world has in store for them. You need to duel Clouds Burn Bright specifically in a way that imparts a good lesson to his girls, all of whom he is grooming to be warrior deity demigods in his place. And at his side. He will not hold back. It does not matter how much he respects Suto. He does not even consider death to be necessarily a bad thing or even really a concern. So do not expect mercy, because he offers none. Additionally, the daughters will be watching, and you can expect interference. Their father is not going to be happy about this, and they're likely to interfere on either yours or his behalf, depending on who they like most at the time. The daughters are fickle, and as temperamental as the weather that they were born from. And as such, you can try to appeal specifically to them if you wish to try to get a hand, which is, part of the game, we'll say, in this particular case. Of note, his daughters are not all of equal power. They are kind of ordered in a hierarchy of themselves. And so you can mostly expect the eldest ones to be most relevant, with some of the lesser ones maybe causing a problem now and again. You are going to be ported in directly to the mountaintop eyrie that Clouds Burn Bright calls home. You should expect to be ready to go almost right away. I should also note that Clouds Burn Bright, this is not like a pretense, right? He's not pretending you're an external threat coming in to attack his daughters or anything like that. He has told them exactly what is going on here. And the goal is to prove to them that they are not unassailable because he is not unassailable. And he is greater than them in their own little internal family hierarchy. I believe that's all I have for the mission statement. And as such, I say we proceed to assembly. On a solo mission, I would often allow assembly to be out of character, but in this case, I think it's actually more fitting and interesting if Suto goes into the normal Enclave meeting rooms, beautifully decorated, perfectly furnished with everything he needs, but colored only in shades of gray, alone with an attendant, standing there anonymous and faceless, ready to receive his questions. Actions upon entering.
Suto is walking into the room and he is shuffling something in his pocket. He pulls it out. It's his phone from his world. He's looking to see if there's any new messages. There are none. So he just kind of shoves it back in. Normally he would be yapping the attendant's ear off, whatever is currently, whatever antics are up in his homeworld. But today he is he's on the quiet side and more kind of nervous isn't the right word, but has a little bit of anxiety in him. He walks into the room and he has his hands on his hips. He's looking around. He's used to at this point. There should be other agents walking in. There should be other agents walking. Am I the first one? I'm sorry. Hi. Am I in the wrong room? I thought there would be other people here.
You will be embarking on this task alone.
Wait. Oh, okay. I probably should have should have read that. Are you sure? Can I call a friend? Like, I think,
There is no question.
all right, well, all right. You know what? Yeah, no, I've been on a lot of missions before. I can handle whatever you got for me. Lay it on me.
The attendant says, "Would you like me to reiterate your briefing?"
At this point, would it have been said to Suto, or would it been expected to be communicated to Suto in some way?
I would be totally fine with us saying in this case, there may have been a briefing and Suto was maybe too lost in his thoughts to have absorbed it. And so as Suto says this aloud, the information on the briefing would flood into his brain directly from the attendant, as though it was being uploaded to him. He would see flashes of clouds burn bright, still probably large in his memory from their original mission.
Okay. Wait, him, that, uh, you know, listen, I'm not saying I'm afraid or anything, but, I think, who'd be really good? Miyuki. Ooh, they had a really great chemistry last time. You know what? He's never met Renal. Renal's also a very capable Thunderbird. I think, his stature of royalty will be able to convince the daughters exactly what he wants.
You were specially requested.
What? I mean, what now? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Whew. No pressure. Okay. Tell me more about where we're gonna be fighting. What does the arena look like? Climate, all that stuff. Give it to me.
The Eyrie is a mountaintop, several miles above sea level. It has a flat surface, completely unadorned, undecorated, sheer cliffs on every side. You should expect open skies, though that will likely change quickly. The air would normally be thin, but you will likely still be able to breathe normally because of the influence that Clouds Burn Bright has over his home domain.
This is his home domain. Okay. Whew, home turf. All right. Visiting team. That's me. Yep. Okay. So where are the daughters going to be situated for this?
About. They are fickle entities, only somewhat corporeal. You should expect them to change form and position very often, and they will likely often appear as atmospheric phenomena.
Oh, okay, all right. I know. Listen, I know that CBB, Clouds Burn Bright, sir, is very hefty man. I could probably not fat. I can probably hit him as hard as I want. Will the daughters, should they expect any collateral damage?
You do not need to fear for anyone's safety besides your own.
Okay. How many agents have defeated Clouds Burn Bright before?
Clouds Burn Bright has not been faced by agents besides on your previous mission before. He has dueled very frequently against other Enclave agents in more casual contexts, but in those contexts he did not have home field advantage, nor did he leverage all of his tools.
Can I, kind of goes up to the attendant, so kind of get like a little spoiler about what kind of tools he may have? I'm pretty sure you've seen what all I've had.
Of course, we can give you an entire list of his gear.
Yes, good.
And here's the summary, right? Clouds Burn Bright, for the most part, relies on his lightning bolts, of which he has many, by the way, and which he draws from his eyes. He additionally has glyphs across his body, which convey substantial protective properties and also can actually become a feathered cloak, functionally speaking. He wields an energy blade, though only in absolute desperate scenarios. Think kind of like the vessel's shadow blade, but operating on different principles. It doesn't target courage, for example. He also has a steed, which is a giant jaguar made of clouds and lightning. But for the most part, Cloudsburn Bright relies on unarmed combat, with which he is extraordinarily proficient. He also has a large host of servants, which he can summon on a dime and will teleport in front of him. These he doesn't usually use in duels, as the attendant would convey to you, and as such it's less likely you'll have to worry about them, but it is still a possibility. His daughters have also made appearances on missions before. You can think of them almost being like him calling in assists from lesser Thunderbirds, pretty much out of whim. But again, that's a little different in this scenario. The main things you need to worry about are, above all else, his unarmed combat proficiency, his bevy of lightning bolts, his steed, his glyphs, and his energy blade.
Okay. So last time he did this like weird thing where he cheated and got essence from the sun. Is that still a thing?
Yes.
Can that not be a thing?
You will have to block the sunlight.
I have to block the sun. And then at that, he's just like, ah! And then he reaches into his pocket and manifests like this little tube of like SPF something sunscreen. And he's all like, I don't think I could do it with this. It's not enough. Oh, okay. Alrighty. And then he just kind of like taps it off the table.
He draws enormous power from the sun.
Block the sun. Okay. Are his daughters Thunderbirds as well?
They possess similar skill sets, but cannot be classified by Enclave metrics.
Okay.
You can think of them more as atmospheric phenomena given form.
Has his power level changed since we last fought? And this is me, the player, asking, because in the mission where we encountered, you said he was roughly a level 10. Is that still the case, or is he a lot more powerful than
that? The attendant would say his power level is negligibly different. However, much of his power comes from metrics beyond Enclave classification.
Hold on, as a player, there was one more question. I'm just blanking.
That's totally fine.
Gosh. And then indulgers, cup of bright, tip of the sun, and then you said be ready for combat right away. As in, as soon as I port in, should I expect him to attack me?
He is unlikely to cast the first blow.
Oh, now I remember what I was going to ask. You said he's skilled in hand-to-hand combat.
Unarmed combat.
Unarmed combat. Okay. That's different. That's good. That's a distinction. Okay. He goes over to one of the walls and there happens to be a dinky little locker, small locker. He opens it up and then takes out, kind of in a Mary Poppins style, a duffel bag that he opens up. Some of his gear he needs to choose. So he's looking down. And he goes for the sneakers. He has taken a liking to those. He's holding up the feathered cloak, which is good against environmental hazards, but he also holds up the billowing cape, which has decent magical protection. So he's looking between the two. He looks over to the attendant. What are the chances I can bring both, but not necessarily wear both at the same time?
You're welcome to bring as much as you would like.
Okay, all right.
Whether you will have the time to change them is potential, but far from guaranteed.
He looks over to the attendant and asks, do I have time to buy one more item?
Yes.
He goes up to the attendant and then he describes an item that has caught his interest and that he would like to spend his earned mercs on.
Yep.
And to you, Robbie, that would be the. Let me pull it up. Where are you? I believe it's called the Star Crystal from the
Yes,
vessel.
from the vessel.
Yes, that is the one.
That is completely fine. In fact, if you don't mind, I have an idea. Can I work it in real quick? You'll still
Yes,
get the Star
please.
Crystal.
Yes, please.
In that case, as you're approaching the attendant, they would say, "We are aware, and it has been made ready for you. A gift from Cloudsburn Bright himself." And they would pass you a star crystal, which would look like a beautiful cloud-given form that radiates with coloring lights, almost like the Aurora Borealis.
He knew. Reads deeply, nods, and then he takes it, looks closely at it. How big is this thing?
It's smaller than a baseball.
And it has to be, what is it? What's the description? Imbibe over a low to mid duration.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, that is kind of like focusing on it, like some sort of magical focus. And then
I'd let you be flexible with it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Instantly coveted by any who see it, especially during imbibing. Okay. Sounds good. Whew. Okay. Looks at the attendant. He has both cloaks, but he is wearing he's wearing both cloaks. He is wearing the billowing cape on first, and kind of takes his feather cloak and kind of wrap it around him, kind of like a little skirt thingy. Doesn't expect it to actually work, but that's just how he's going to hold that item. Looks at the attendant and says, "Let's do this."
The attendant turns on a heel and leaves the room as the telepad springs to life.
Okay. Remember, you're here to do a job, but this is not for you. This is for them. This is for them. This is for Jane. This is for Sailor. This is for Diana. It's for them. It's for them. It's for them. And with that, he runs and steps onto the telepad.
And immediately he feels the tingling sensation in his feet, shooting up his legs, reaching his core, hitting his eyes, and his vision explodes into miasma of color, shifting and indistinct. But when it returns, he is struck by beautiful warm sun and crystal cold air breathing around him in gusts of wind. The mountaintop he is at the very peak of is a perfectly flat plateau. This is unintentional, but not entirely dissimilar to a baseball diamond in terms of its dimensions. And also made of a neatly manicured fine sand at the very top with a small lip of stone surrounding the entirety of it. The sand is traced with a couple of esoteric patterns or something, almost like a Zen garden. And around him, around the mountaintop, there swirls a beautiful vortex of gentle clouds. You can see them moving uncharacteristically, and sometimes little bursts of weather phenomena erupt from them. A little flurry of snow from one, a little bit of sleet from another. But additionally, sitting across from him in the middle of the sand, with one of his long arms tracing patterns, is the man himself, Cloudsburn Bright. You've only ever seen him standing, and sitting is a very different experience. His legs are crossed, and his arms are splayed, and his head is downturned as he traces his symbols. The sun beats down on top of you. It is noon, and it is glorious weather, with the heat of the sun and the cool of the wind contrasting from each other perfectly. Looking around off the top of the mountain, you see a beautiful pastel painting of landscape in every direction. Mountains and jungles, and even an ocean in the far distance. And it's as though you can see all of them from the peak of a globe, where the curvature of the earth is more exaggerated. Actions upon arrival.
Is his back towards me or no?
No. His head is
So
down,
he's-
but he's facing you.
Okay, how far away is he from me? Like a meter-ish away, or like on
Pitcher's
the other
mound.
side of the field?
Pitcher's mound.
Okay, got it. And I would be like on like batting position,
Yeah.
so like home base. All right, cool. They said you called for me.
You hear the clouds suddenly release a chorus of giggles and whispers. They shift and move in unusual patterns. But they continue to stay a semi-respectful distance. Cloudsburn Bright does not look up, but he continues to trace out his pattern. His skin continues to be that unusual shade of like dark grayish blue, although in the sun, in the bright of the sun here, it looks different than when you first met, but still similar tone. His glyphs continue to shine bright and vivid, though they shift color sometimes, first purple, then green, then red. But other than that, he looks precisely the same, and without looking up, he calls in his normal tone, "I did!"
I don't know whether to be terrified or honored, honestly.
He doesn't respond to this, instead standing slightly to finish his symbol that he's tracing around himself. You can hear the clouds whispering and playing with each other as they start to cluster on your side of the arena.
He looks at Cloudsburn Bright. He's like still sitting, and so cautiously
Slowly standing up.
Now he's standing up.
Yep.
He stands up right as like Suto's about to sit down. Okay, I guess we're sitting now. So, teach a lesson to your daughters, huh?
Do you remember what I told you when we met? He talks over you.
Something about potential, sir.
He looks at you, and his hawk-like features laser in on yours. You can see with the sun bathing the skyline around him, he again has this worshipful look, like when you first met him. He says, "You are gifted, in touch with the sky, she who birthed me. You remember these words?"
I do.
And do you remember, too, when I told you that together we could walk out across the horizon, to take to the sky and insist upon her the return of our birthright? You remember this?
And then, in a lower tone, almost kind of like hypnotically drawn in, he responds, I do.
And do you remember the decision you made?
He wants to say I do, but he holds the words back.
He takes one step.
What I meant back then.
And what did you mean?
That I was already everything I wanted to be.
Did you lie? Or was a new truth revealed?
It felt so long ago. So much has happened since then.
Ha!
Listen, this isn't about me. This isn't about me or your mind games, okay? This is about me doing a mission. This is a job.
No games. Part of the lesson.
Lesson? I thought the lesson was for them.
It is.
Are you making a fool out of me?
I make a fool out of you the same way you made a fool out of me by teaching me what is correct. I was wrong. You were right. And now the tables have turned, have they not?
Tables up there. Did you bring me here because you think I'm wrong about something?
No!
Hold on. You think you know me? We've only met once, dude.
A challenge cannot go unanswered.
Challenge, huh? Takes out his Thunderhammer, which is his baseball. Does a little, like, kick to the bat, and then it spins, and then he catches it. And he says, okay. They said that you're not likely to take the first move. How much time you got?
He stands straight and puts his heels together and says, an eternity.
Suto waits. He's just standing there, waits a couple minutes, but it seems like he's thinking or whatever, but in reality, he's just like glancing up towards the sky. This is a player speaking. You mentioned it was noon. This implies that time moves.
At least it seems to. However, as a few minutes pass, maybe it's just the light or the angle or the not enough time having passed, but you can't see the sun moving. It's only been a couple minutes, though, and given Suto's adrenaline, it might be even less than that.
It's only been a couple minutes. So.
You hear the clouds dancing and playing around you, giggling and whispering, and even once or twice you feel a little gust of wind and almost knock your cap off.
Let me just describe for the audience what Suto is wearing. After 31 missions, he has garnered a lot of gear. On his head, he has his Spangen helm, which is skinned as a baseball helmet, hard red, and has a little cheek guard on one side.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing a baseball suit, which also acts as his sportswear. As mentioned before, he has sneakers, billowing cape around his neck, and his feather cloak around his waist. His chest seems a little bit bulky because the baseball chest guard underneath his uniform is his hero Curious. In this particular, normally he would also be... Actually, no. He's also wearing a baseball jacket, light blue, which is his Vishivanka. I'm sorry, Tomash, that you have to hear my pronunciation. And as mentioned before, he's holding a baseball bat, which is his Thunderhammer. And though unseen, since it is on his backside, he does have his lightning bolts skinned as baseballs. So he does have a couple other things up his sleeve, but should those be revealed, then those will be told. But that is what is visibly on his person at the moment. And so with...
Cloudsburn Bright, on the other hand, wears nothing but a loincloth.
Yes.
No visible gear, though Suto knows that is not true fully. The glyphs that cover his body, the clouds that swirl in his eyes, which you can see even from here, those are all potential hazards.
How windy is it?
Right now, variable, but on average, you're guessing like finger-mouth sort of gauge, enough that a pitcher would have to adjust for it.
Okay. Feels like chess.
Will Suto wait?
Black.
Will you wait?
Knowing how dangerous the sun is, he is going to wait, but also kind of like taking this. He's trying to seem confident, but he's also taking his time to kind of think about his first move. Suto works best being a team player, a support. He is not, his strengths do not lie in him being solo, and so this is something that he is trying to hype himself up with. But he does wait.
What's going through his head while he waits?
He is trying to like strategize as best as he could. Basically, in his head, it looks like a bunch of like baseball coach diagrams with like the arrows and the circles and the
Yeah, of course.
X's and whatnot. But in particular, he's thinking, okay, his weapons are in his eyes. He can possess my bat. Okay, yep, that sucked. I don't think there's anything to do that will really catch this guy off guard. He's thinking about this, and every now and then just kind of glances in the sun. He can't tell if it's not moving because it's not moving, or time moves slowly, or because of that weird phenomena where if you look at a clock, it seems like time is not moving.
A question. This is a legitimate question. It is not a leading question. Is Suto panicking? And if not, what is his emotional state?
There is definitely anxiety, just because of the present moment. But also mixed into it are some feelings of insecurity. Um, part of it is related to the fact that he's facing a very powerful opponent, but also in regards to his ability, um, in regards to how he feels about the last answer he gave Clownsbird Bright, which is when he was asked, when he was offered the chance to gain power, he turned it down because he said that he was everything he wanted to be, namely a family man. And there is part of him that's insecure that he can't answer the question with the same kind of confidence that he did before. So he's trying to push those thoughts away as he's thinking, okay, I just gotta make my move. It's gotta start somehow. Okay, listen, this is
As you are thinking, however, and as the thoughts roil through your mind, you glance up at the sky. The sun's moving. Your shadow has shifted.
Dude, how much time has passed? Oh man, I should have asked for her watch. Okay, all right. But he's noticing that, and he's like, okay, all right. So at the very least, time does move. He steps back towards the edge.
Yeah, towards the stone rim of the arena.
Yep.
As he does, he hears the whispering and giggling of the clouds around, a little bit louder. Sometimes it almost sounds like they're speaking Metro, or words at least that you can kind of understand, but it might even just be to tease you. You're not sure. It definitely has a teasing quality to it that Suto would not be unfamiliar with, though it's not the kind of teasing that would hurt, given that he's raising children.
Okay, so this is what he does. Looks up to the sky. He looks at Cosburn Bright, and then he steps back and then gives a little hop off of the cliff side. He's falling, and
The
then
cliff is sheer, almost perfectly sheer in front of you as you drop.
awesome. What he wants to do then is that as he is falling, is that he wants to kind of so hear me out and help me possibly. He wants to do the hot air rises that Cloudsburn Bright did in his first mission, but basically using the kind of speed that he's gaining as he's falling and kind of flip it in reverse. So then that's the speed that it'll be when the manifestation happens. And so he'll be shooting up, and then with the intention of going up high, fast, and sets him up for an out of the blue.
Okay. Well, let's begin with the hot air rises thing. You're going for something pretty substantive here. Let's begin with what this is going to feel like within your body. Second of all, where your mind is going to be.
What this will feel like in my body. Well, first of all, in action mode, Suto's mind just tends to go blank because being the good boy that he is, he can't think and move at the same time. so, um, so yes, his mind is blank, and he feels the rush of the air coming underneath him, seemingly coming underneath his uniform. He feels the kind of electric kind of jolt that people get when they are falling, but rather than that feeling go away, he kind of focuses on it and then lets that kind of flow to the rest of the limbs of his body. So then that kind of tension, that kind of stress never leaves his body. As he's doing so, he is aware that his heartbeat is starting to get a little bit faster from the sheer excitement. And that is what he's sensationally feeling as he's falling.
Arcane stat.
4.
And your billowing cape is the one that's equipped right now, isn't it?
It is not the feather.
That's actually a very good thing in this case. Because I'm going to say that as you activate this rush of hot air, your billowing cape would like flare out around you, catch the rise, and you would feel yourself lift rapidly into the air, going from not terminal velocity to slowing, to reversing, to shooting up, not as fast as you fell, but approaching that speed. What would you like to do as you're rising back towards the lip?
As I'm rising, while he's not thinking words, there is this innate kind of primal feeling of like higher, 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 and he is trying to get as high up as he can. He wants to be so as high to the point where by the time he is decelerating, he wants Cosgrove Brine to be a dot, and then that is when he is going to shoot down on him with his out of the blue.
As you are shooting up, shooting higher, you blast through the wisping cyclone of clouds that were surrounding the top. You hear giggles and squeaks and shrieks of like play distress, and you actually feel added wind underneath you as you launch higher still into the air. The sky around you is perfect blue. There are no clouds anywhere but down. The sun beats down on the back of your neck, and Clouds Burn Bright is a tiny dot in a small patch of sand.
In that case, this is where I go up to bat and where I go out of the blue. And as mentioned in the book, it scales with distance, correct?
Yep.
Let's go.
Scales with height, specifically.
Height. Well, I'm pretty high already.
How are you angling your body when you do out of the blue?
So...
Is this bat first, fist first, feet first, what?
It'll be like head first. It's almost like he's doing like a dive bomb.
Yep, absolutely. And as you shock down, crackling through the air at speed, you find as your vision returns and you see sand settling around as a small crater has appeared in the center of the arena. Once again, a familiar sensation as a hand has reached and has contacted you by the shoulder. Clouds Burn Bright, you can see, has skid marks along the sand from where his feet were pushed backwards as he has paused you by the shoulder in the midst of your thunderclap. For the moment after you rematerialize, you maintain in that position. Your feet roughly up, your head roughly down, your arms kind of to your sides but in ready position. He is impacting you by your left shoulder. Actions, what would you like to do?
I would like to addendum that a little bit in activating his perk, Steal Second Base. After hitting the first target, out of the blue can ricochet to another target. And
absolutely.
That, in this case, this would also require some level of energy work. He wants to... This one is not going to be maybe as strong because it is shorter distance. He wants to out of the blue towards his eyes.
Absolutely. And I'm not even going to push you further on that. It just makes sense that you'd be able to do. As you redirect, you actually feel, I think maybe for the first time by yourself, the blow land on Clouds Burn Bright. If I recall correctly, on your first mission, only that group action at the end was when Suto actually landed something on him.
Listen, all I'm saying that one of those hits should have hit, but like.
And as you rematerialize again, you actually can see that you have knocked him off balance. And you are currently in the air overhead, having like functionally lightning headbutted him. And are now, you can think of it like, imagine the two of you were just like, are on a trampoline and you're like at a similar body posture, but facing him and about 2 feet up.
So similar posture. So like I'm like facing him, but I'm
Yep.
in the sky, right?
Exactly.
Okie dokie. In God. Woo! All right. I guess we're doing this. In that case, what he's going to do is he's going to take off his Vishivanka, and then he wants to tie it around his. He's taking the opportunity to tie it around his head and just kind of like.
Real quick. As you are taking off your Vishivanka, you feel a set of feet in your stomach as Clouds Burn Bright lands on his back with his feet in your stomach and launches you into the sky overhead.
The piece of work.
This is going to be a very relevant stat on this mission, resilience.
+2.
And thankfully you have some great armor there, so I don't even think you're winded by this.
If it's the stomach, then I would agree, just because of the heroic curious.
Exactly. You got that, you got resilience, so you might have like a oof, but nothing worse than that, as you're catapulted, call it 15, 20 feet overhead.
Okay. Before you continue, just want to let you know that the second perk of Out of the Blue is bases loaded. So because Cloudburn Bright was the target of Out of the Blue, technically twice, after it crashes, they see a number of static, realistic images of Suto in their vision for a low duration.
Ooh, that's excellent. Thank you for reminding me. In that case, after launched, what would you like to do as you are pushed up into the air? You can see that Clouds Burn Bright, having landed on his back and pushed you up, has elegantly like back handsprung back to his feet from down on the ground below you.
Let's see. He will. Let's see. How high up am I again?
Call it 20 feet.
20 feet. Okay. All right. He is going to take one of his lightning bolts and energy works them and tosses them as a baseball off to the side, not hitting Clouds Burn Bright. Before going, hi, up above you, Baldy!
And in this case, are you throwing them far enough that there's no way they're going to reroute?
That is the goal.
Okay, absolutely. In that case, as you take lightning bolts and you throw, you can see that Clouds Burn Bright has taken a low stance looking up, and he does like a drawing motion with his hand, and you hear a weird sound that does ring a bell to you. It's almost, imagine someone had an explosion and then they played it in reverse.
Motherfather.
On like a video player, right? And the air, like 10 feet to your left, you can see cavitates wildly as he uses that reverse vacuum thunderclap thing, but it misses you, clearly aiming for one of your after images. And you can see that as he draws his hand in, you can actually see the tiniest little of his eyebrows as he realizes that there was nothing there. Immediate follow-ups from you after the yell, because this is what you're saying, like immediately as he is doing the vacuum thunderclap. What do you want to do?
Yes, he is going to. Side note, Out of the Blue has a low cooldown.
Yes, it does.
Can I Out of the Blue right now, or is it not that low?
Energy work.
Okay. Okie dokie. I know I mentioned that I only threw one of the baseballs.
Yep, I imagined 2, but 1 is fine. Wouldn't change
2.
The action.
I was gonna say, could it be 2? Because you mentioned 2, and I'm like, oh wait,
Nope,
I have an
2 is
idea
fine.
for that actually. Alrighty. He is going to out of the blue focusing on the first baseball that
Yep.
he threw. He wanted to towards that baseball, and then he wants to throw it over to Clownsburg Bright while out of the blue ricocheting over to the second baseball as he materializes it. So
Oh
basically,
shit! So you want to get them before they reach the ground?
yeah.
That's so freaking cool. You know, uh,
The
on
idea is
cool.
that because it's lightning, it's fast.
Yeah, and I mean both technically lightning, but I'm gonna say it totally makes sense. Out of the blue would be faster than your thrown lightning bolt, especially because of your skin foot. You know what? You've sold me on coolness alone.
Yes.
Shooting down to the first baseball, grabbing it, throw, and then using your perk to redirect to your second baseball, grabbing it, throw. Yes?
Yes.
And in this case, as you do, Clouds Burn Bright blocks the first pretty effortlessly. However, as you're blasting over to the second one, he actually attacks another of the phantasmal images in his mind that you've cast there with your perk. And in so doing, the second baseball you throw actually manages to get him in the shoulder blade. You can see that a normal person hit by one of your baseballs at like pretty much any range is smoked, right? In his case, however, it doesn't leave any visible damage on his body. Besides, the glyph on his shoulder blade gets a crack through it.
Suto is breathing heavily, and then he just, with his sneakers, he's able to land on the ground safely.
Oh,
He's
easily.
breathing, and he's like, he starts running to the, if we're taking his position roughly as home base, he's running towards third.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. As you are starting to flank Clouds Burn Bright in that direction, you can see that after getting like dinged in the shoulder, rather than whipping around, he brings his arms up and flexes his entire body simultaneously. The flex is like, as you may remember from the first mission, he actually uses a small thunderclap on the flex itself as his every muscle tenses, looking like
Yep.
Mr. Olympia just for a moment. And the pulse that like radiates out from it, though you are too far away to be caught by it, it actually would like blow your hair back. And let me think. And if nothing else, just cause your cape to stream out in a very cool way off to the side as you are running in the third direction. Or third base direction. As you are doing so, and he does the thunder flex, what do you want to do from here?
I see him go for the Thunderflex, and then as I'm running, I'm becoming more acutely aware of my heart rate. I've been doing a lot of movement. While I wouldn't say I'm tired at this point, he is very aware that
Your vigor stat is 4, right?
it is 4.
Yeah, it's 4. You're not even close to tired.
Great, because as he's
You would still be feeling it. Like, you'd feel your breath right, but you're still comfortably in the green.
God, oh, I'm so comfortable again. Oh, perfect. So, Storm Brewing. Perk, bottom of the ninth, scores tied, bases loaded, up to bat. Suto can choose to activate Storm Brewing with his heartbeat, and that is exactly what he is doing.
Oh, yeah.
At this moment, finally having gotten his heart rate at a very, you know what I mean.
It's moving. It's moving. You got some movement.
It's pumping. And as he is storm brewing, the idea is to materialize a storm cloud above him.
Yep. Storm cloud above?
Yep.
Marvelous. As you are doing so, immediately following the Thunderflex, Clouds Burn Bright begins to slowly turn, but as he does so, you see his hands moving to his eyes. What do you want to do?
I don't like that. Okay, so paint a picture for me. So let's say that I'm like at third base and he's over there, right?
Yep. He is on your right.
I'm
He
not
would be
directly in front of his hands where his eyes are, right?
to give you an idea, if you're at third base and he's at the pitcher's mound, like orientation-wise, he would be at your 4 o'clock. He is turning towards you, swinging his view past second base, so you would be at his like 9, 10 o'clock.
Okay, because what I want to do is that as I am seeing his, like, he's starting to bring his hands to his eyes, I'm thinking in my head, oh no you don't, he like pivots and then he he brings his hands out, and then does his own thunderclap, but uses his perk Stolen Base, which is his own reverse thunderclap. Take that, you piece of work! The idea being that the force of his reverse thunderclap would pull his hands away from his eyes.
Absolutely. And as you use your thunderclap, Clouds Burn Bright's hands don't like they leave his eyes, but they stay close to his face as he takes the opportunity to take a running skip, moving with the force of the thunderclap to launch himself towards you in a full-bodied tackle with his hands high.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to do? He's midair.
He's midair. Fuzzcakes. Okay.
Yeah, he's like flying towards you at this point.
But he's like towards me, right?
Yep,
like
directly towards you.
Not from above.
Nope, bang on towards you.
Okay, perfect. Suto drops to the ground, and then he, in a very familiar way, he drops to the ground, kind of like in a crouching position, but in a very familiar way, he goes for the nether regions.
The nut shot. Everyone's favorite anti-Clouds Burn Bright move. In this case, as you take the massive... What's your might stat? 2 or 3?
+1.
+1? Okay, it's still +1. Cool. But your vigor is 4.
Correct.
Skill?
3.
3? Yeah, okay. In this case, going for his loinclothed nether region, as you swing, Clouds Burn Bright's like massive, like full body dash in your direction is paused in place as he takes a hard stance on the ground, like directly over you, parrying your blow to his crotch with his crotch. The bat deflects off to the side with a spark of like lightning flashes.
Don't tell Jane about this! Don't tell her about this! Oh my gosh. Okay. Alrighty, paint a picture for me. Where am I?
So, you've just swung, but your bat has gone pretty much over your shoulders because of the deflection, and it's kind of on an awkward angle in your hands. Kind of like getting a bad foul, right? He is, like, not fully straddling, but standing, like, completely over the top of you, and with your hands out behind your back and your feet down below you, you're in a very compromised position.
I am, and at this point, in the position I'm in, I can't see what he's doing, correct?
You can, but since you're looking at him from down below, you only have a picture of some of his body. So you can't see everything that he is doing.
All right, sounds good. No, it wouldn't work because I have to be in motion. Okay. I was going to say, can I add up the blue towards his crotch? But I'm very determined to make this work, okay? I was robbed.
Oh, God.
But no, I'm not in motion, so
yeah,
can't use that perk. Could I pitch that when I was running to third base, I was literally thinking like the edge of the cliffside, and so I am like by the edge.
Luck stat?
Baseline.
Baseline? I can say that you're close-ish, but not within stepping distance. You could try to scramble for it.
He's panicking. He's going to scramble for it.
Reflex?
+2.
Okay. In that case, as you go to scramble, you feel a heavy foot stomp into the small of your back.
Yeah, there it is!
This one, again, you have the resilience and the armor to not get the wind completely knocked out of you, but it would like splat, pancake you against the ground. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Immediate actions after that, your face is now into the ground, so you have no idea what's going on.
Oh, gosh. Okay. He is... My arms are not pinned, right?
No.
in that case, he's gonna try to grab the sides of his billowing cape as much as he can and extend out his arms to try to have it cover as much of him as he can, while he is again concentrating on his heartbeat. And in this particular moment, like I mentioned before, he doesn't really think, but there is a fluctuation of kind of frustration that's starting to build inside of him.
Absolutely. And as you do so, you feel the first good hit land on you. In this case, it is a lightning bolt to the back. However, your billowing cape prevents this from being awful, right? It's bad, right? You are stunned as though the bolt was like a javelin that transfixed you to the ground. But while you are like transfixed for the moment, you are still with your senses, at least as of now. Actions after being hit by this bolt.
How is my storm?
You do not know. Your head is up enough that you can kind of see it's getting kind of gray, but there's still sunlight.
To clarify, he wants the storm to be right above him, not in the air, like trying to cover the sun.
Oh, just like above him only?
Yeah.
Oh, pardon me. I did actually not. I completely didn't get that. In that case, I would say that it would block the sun from your position at the very least, though, even if it didn't block the entire area.
Yes.
So because of that, you would see it by the quality of the shadow that the storm is not finished, but is getting quite thick over you specifically.
Mm-hmm. Dang, I am in a compromising position, as they would say. Okie dokie. Suto. Okay. Suto, he's still like on the ground, and then like he scrambles for his pocket. This time, as he is on the ground, he gives the appearance that he's like trying to get up. This part of him is trying to get up, right? So his back is kind of arched. He has like one hand on the ground, and he's trying to be on his knees. And as he does so, he sneakily reaches into his pocket and then whispers over to the thing that he took out. Hey, it would be really funny if this guy just like tripped. And then he lets go of his pocket mischief, which is, for the audience, a furry, round, mischief-loving creature. Mischief-loving creature, which I just imagine as like one of those soot balls from Spirited Away, that fits into palm of your hand. Once permission, can carry out a boosted happenstance, but may cause additional trouble along the way.
In that case, two things. As you are initially going for your pocket, bam, another lance through the back that again slams you back into the ground. As you are getting the pocket mischief out, a third bolt, bam, hits you in the shoulder this time. And as you have been riddled by 3 lightning bolts, you barely grit out the sentence to the pocket mischief, which you hear give a little and like twiddle away however it does. But as it does so, a 4th bolt slams into your upper leg. And at this point, having taken 4 lightning bolts in like as many seconds, what would you like to do? Your billowing cloak has completely saved your life in this instance.
I know it has. Okay, so Thunderclap is not off cooldown, is it?
No.
Okay. Okay. In that case, here's what happens. He's like going oof, 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 right? And then he is feeling the sand underneath his hands, trying to ground himself back into reality. And then, Suto like has this moment of like, okay, all right, I'm here. And then he closes his eyes again as he starts to imagine the time when his children, in their roughhousing phase, or still in their roughhousing phase, to be honest, were attacking him because he was the monster that they were trying to defeat. And they were just pounding and pounding and pounding on their dad, thinking that, and because little kids, they don't hold back when it comes to their strength, when not properly disciplined. So he remembers this time that as he's doing so, some of his frustration starts to come out, and then he goes, Gah! And then kind of like flings his kids away. Of course, he makes sure that they're okay. But using that memory, he wants to kind of manifest this force / intense wind to kind of like allow him the opportunity to get up and throw off Cloudburn Bright, at least just enough for him to escape.
Now, a complication to this. As this memory is coming into your mind, you're trying to get back together, the biggest force you've felt yet crashes into the small of your back and completely slams you to the ground, knocking out the wind out of you, knocking the sense out of your mind, and almost knocking that memory that you were trying to focus on out of your head as well. And when, after like a second or two, you're coming to your senses, you actually feel Cloudburn Bright's bare foot on the back of your head and his other one on the small of your back as he's standing on you like a surfboard. This, however, is the point at which the memory of throwing off the girls comes flooding into your mind. What do you want to do?
In that case, can I throw him forward?
Throw him forward? He's standing in such a way that if you were to go like this, he'd be going behind you. But that's only if you like rear up, you know what I mean?
Let's try to demonstrate.
Yes.
So like imagine this, right? His head and the
he has one foot on the back of your head and he has one foot down on the small of your back.
Oh wait, that's a lot lower than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I guess using that memory, he is going to conjure up a arcane manifestation to have that force appear. And again, original plan, fling him back so that he has the ability to roll out, escape, breathe, not smell feet.
Would Suto roar when he does this, or yell or something? Or would this just be an exertion?
This would be an exertion. I will leave it up to you. He is more likely to make like grunts and whatnot without him actively knowing it.
Yeah, I think in that case, Suto would involuntarily give like a as he like flings himself upwards, and the impelled force launches Cloudburn Bright backwards, allowing Suto to scrabble out and start to get properly to his feet. As he is doing so, those 5 hits, 4 lightning bolts, and presumably out of the blue, were brutal. Like, you had 2 layers of armor, one of which is specialized towards magical protection, and yet it I don't know if you've ever heard people say, like, the feeling of getting shot while wearing a bulletproof vest. It still feels like someone just punched the shit out of you, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so you're in kind of a similar position, where you feel horrifically bruised along your back, and you're walking with kind of a bit of a hunch, and you feel aches in your ribs every time you move your body. But you're back on your feet, and you can see that Cloudburn Bright, as you're kind of like scrabbling to get back up and look back around, is currently drawing more lightning bolts from his eyes. When he does so, it almost looks like, how do I describe it? Almost like a coiling lash is emerging, which arcs with electricity, and then it kind of like snaps off at the end, as though you were tying off, or like you're cutting a thread, at which point it just kind of like flashes and sparks in his hand, lacing between his fingers as though he were doing like a cat's cradle.
Oh, dang. Okay. I'm back on my feet. I'm bruised. How's my storm?
Are you going to look up?
Would it be strong enough where I can hear the crackle of thunder as electricity goes in between clouds?
Your blood is pounding in your ears. However, I would say you would hear a low rumble of thunder above you.
Okay, sounds good. He hears/feels this, and then he knows it's risky because he just got onto his feet. But he looks over. He doesn't take his eyes off of Cloudburn Bright. He leans down, and then he touches the spot where he is standing, and he will concentrate on it for as much time as Cloudburn Bright will let him, which do you think is like maybe 2 seconds?
Cloudburn Bright does not move in those 2 seconds as you are focusing on the spot between your feet. He has a handful of lightning in each of his fists.
Okay. Basically, he's waiting for Cloudburn Bright to make the move because he is focusing on something. And I will let you know whether or not that something is fair when it comes into play.
Well, Another second passes, then another 3, then another 5. Cloudsburn Bright doesn't move. However, you do see something somewhat strange. You can see that your storm, which was localizing quite nicely over your head and is starting to get loud with thunder, is starting to dissipate as though it were being broken like ice by a prow of a ship.
That's not nice. I guess upon feeling that, I just take out of surprise, I take a quick glance up. Do I hear/feel any of the mischievous daughters kind of interrupting?
No, this feels like a storm brewing from Cloudsburn Bright.
Well, that's not nice!
I should also note, by the way, that as you look up, your only warning is the slightest flash of light from the peripheries of your vision. Immediate reactions as you're looking up.
Want to just add a pure vigor, and with the additional boost of my sneakers, run again. If I'm like in third base, I want to run to like second base.
Okay, in that case, so running kind of towards your 10 o'clock ish.
Yes.
Yeah. Ish, yeah. As you run, wow, 4 vigor plus that. Let me think about that for a second. I would say because of that, you would get glanced by the bolt that he had just flicked at you. It would get you like through the right bicep, but it would not be as firm of a hit as it could have been just because of Suto's pure speed. However, that is a relatively unprotected area. At least it's not protected by your billowing cloak at the moment.
No, it would be the Vishivanka.
Yeah. And so because of that, this one hurts way worse than the other ones did. The other ones were like a dull thudding pain. This one is sharp and would maybe even cause Suto to like draw in breath quickly as he is starting to run. But again, with +2 resilience, this isn't going to bring him down by itself. However, as he is starting to run, he still has eyes on Cloudsburn Bright, and you can see that the second lightning bolt is being thrown in his direction as well. What would you like to do?
All right, he is waiting, and then, so I know it's like, lightning is pretty instantaneous,
yeah,
but basically when he gets that feeling that the bolt is going to lash out, that's when he wants to kind of like do a jump, and then with his baseball bat, he wants to try to absorb all of that lightning. Keyword try.
Ooh, what's that going to feel like? Because that's an unusual absorption.
Let's see. So, if you've ever stuck your hand in an outlet, which I've never done, but if you have, you get that kind of sensation. Now, imagine that like cranked up to 100. It's not just in your fingertips; it's all over your body. There's this kind of sensation of I wouldn't say floatiness, but this kind of unreal feeling of existence.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that case, I would say that as you swing your bat around, it charges. However, you feel your hands weld to the bat.
Sure.
Not a pleasant sensation, but you can feel Cloudsburn Bright's lightning charged in its shaft. What would you like to do from here?
From there, as soon as I feel that, I whip it around back to him.
And as you sling the lightning back towards his direction, you can see that he, who is already starting to make some like different actions, he was starting to take steps kind of in your direction. He does bring up his hand in his familiar parrying position and catches his lightning as it is coming back towards him. He does not redirect it back towards you in this case. Instead, as he catches it, he like draws it like forcefully like between 2 fingers and puts it back into his eye.
Okay.
With bats still welded to hands, what would you like to do?
He wants to use, so the force that he used to throw it back to him, he wants to use that little bit of momentum to help him continue on his way to
second
base.
Yep, yes. Absolutely. And
now, question, is the storm still above me?
The storm is still above you, but is still feeling like it is being cut through and dissipated, though not as aggressively as before when you guys were pausing.
Yep, okay. Sounds good. Quick glance up at the sun.
You see the sun God, has it moved? You're so disoriented from all the action. It's not even been that long since you last checked in the grand scheme of things because of how fast the fighting has been. Maybe it's moving. Probably it's moving. Who knows? What would you like to do?
Who knows who knows indeed. Alrighty. Greatly reduces stamina and as exogenous symptoms while active and in a storm. Okay.
Oh, I should note, Cloudsburn Bright, having reabsorbed the lightning bolt into his eye, has taken a stomping stance and brought both of his hands forwards, kind of like he's riding a motorcycle.
Oh, okay. All right. It's okay. I've broken motorcycles before, right, Tomash? Anyway. So okay, so because this is what he wants to do. He sees the storm start to dissipate, and he knows that he can make it stronger with more than just his heartbeat. And this is done via things like this is done by things like singing, dancing, and whatnot. But in his mind, as his hands are welded to the bed and his ears are kind of ringing, in his head, that kind of ringing turns into the murmuring / cheers / jeers of a crowd at a stadium.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this kind of staticky, kind of cheery noise that is in his head. It's not exactly melodic, but there is a certain beat to it. And it's that kind of steadiness and that kind of familiarity with the pattern of a crowd that he uses to he focuses on, he absorbs to strengthen and regain control of his storm.
And as you are doing so, you feel like that sensation's coming back in. I love the description for it. However, Cloudsburn Bright would go from his forward-facing position like this. He would rapidly draw back one foot and the same hand on the same side. So he goes into like almost like a Tai Chi squat. And Suto would feel his bat leap towards Cloudsburn Bright, dragging him by his welded hands along the ground as Cloudsburn Bright draws your bat towards his outstretched hand.
And feeling fuck it. Dang it! Sorry, Mal knows why. Mal knows why. He out of the blues.
In that direction?
In that direction.
Absolutely. And as you do so, the out of the blue directs clean to Cloudsburn Bright's hand, who grabs the haft of your bat, seemingly completely unfazed by the out of the blue. Your hands are still attached to the bat's haft, and with him holding the bat's haft, which is still like a foot away from his head, he brings his other hand, which is currently behind him like this, around in a massive power punch towards your face, pulling the bat over his shoulder to drag you forward into the path of the punch.
And with that, can I ricochet out of the blue towards quote unquote third base? Because what he was doing at that particular area was a very focused kind of storm brewing where he was essentially negatively charging the ground.
That's what you were doing with the ground over there?
Yeah.
I will partially give you it because you are being so overbalanced and are in such a compromised position that out of the bluing in the opposite direction, while I like your setup for it, I think you're in too vulnerable of a position for it to be instant, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And because of that, the punch from Cloudsburn Bright would sink into Suto's cheek. He would feel the force of the punch rip his hands off of his bat, peeling off the skin as it does so. He would literally be able to feel his jaw break and a couple of his teeth pop out from the force of this one punch. He would feel his eyes almost like trying to bulge out of their sockets from the strength of this punch.
Whew.
And as the punch, it would completely lay you out flat, were it not for the out of the blue that brings you backwards, giving you a good like 20, 30 yards of space from Cloudsburn Bright, but you would appear from the out of the blue on your back, skidding across the third base area. Suto's ears are ringing, his head is throbbing, his mind is foggy, his eyes have winking lights and like red bloody veins passing across their vision. He cannot talk because of the broken jaw. He feels teeth kind of swimming around in a pool of blood in his mouth. What does he want to do? Are you okay, by the way? Did you get a bloody nose?
I am.
I'm so sorry. Wow, why very in
No. It's not you. It's not you.
It's Cloudsburn Bright, that asshole.
Clearly. Yeah, no, he is there, isn't he? Inventory. Anything he can move.
Actually, the rest of his body, after a moment of like, am I dead? The rest of his body is actually pretty usable, but any movement would make his head hurt. Like, he's been badly concussed by this.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Jeez. Oh, my boy. You know what? He's gonna, he feels that he can still stand. And even though the part of him that is kind of grounded to reality is hurting and doesn't want to, he forces himself to kind of like stand up. He holds his hands as though it was in a batting position, but his bat is like way far away. And again, he's just standing there as though he's about to take a strike. He is breathing really heavily.
Blood is pouring out of his mouth, I should also note.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, and also some teeth. And that he's like, okay, I have an idea. I just don't know how to go about it.
You hear Cloudsburn Bright's voice cut through the air. It's kind of muted, like you're listening to it through a little bit of water, but it still, because of his loudness, manages to get to Suto's brain through all the fog that has been produced. I felt like a child at the Enclave. Always a bigger hawk in the sky. There will always be threats that make you feel like a child. Always mountains you cannot climb. Always oceans you cannot cross. What do you feel like now?
He's like trying to spit up as much blood as he can. His jaw hurts. He can't really respond, but in the back of his mind, there is kind of this conflict going on in his head. Part of him is like, if I can still stand, if I can still move, then I can get just that little bit better to cross those oceans and to fight those opponents. I've worked way too hard and I've fought many people, met so many people that I know that it is possible for me to achieve the heights that once seemed impossible. But then there's another part of his brain which is like, this is bound to happen. Like, come on. You're just a guy who plays baseball. You want him to quit? You want him to do the Enclave full time? You're lucky that you even got here in the first place. Man, do you think he's realized yet? You think your opponent's realized yet that he made the wrong choice? Honestly, I think that you're just here to be beat up. Maybe this is punishment for something. I don't know. You're too mean to your wife. And then at that, Suto, he's kind of forcing himself to move. He is kind of like trying to shuffle over towards second base with these thoughts in his hand. Again, he's trying to respond to Cloudsburg Bright, but again, like no words can come out of his jaw.
What's your will stat?
+1.
I agree, for now.
Mm-hmm.
Cloudsburn Bright is walking towards you very slowly. Even as you're trying to kind of strafe, he just like smoothly redirects to keep walking slowly towards you. He has your bat and is kind of holding it like awkwardly midway between the 2 points on it in a way that no one would actually be able to swing with it with. Mm-hmm. And you can see that in his other hand, he's holding one of his crackling cat's cradle lightning bolts. As he does so, he says, "How do you think he feels, girls?" And after a moment, you hear a faint giggle, and then a little bit of rain starts like falling localized on Cloudsburn Bright's head. You also hear the faint of the pocket mischief. You see that Cloudsburn Bright pauses, and his normal hawkish intensity fades for a second as a look of visible irritation passes over his face. And he says, "Rains sing soft? Stop that at once. I am trying to speak to the man." You hear another little giggle from above, and the pocket mischief eggs her on a little bit.
Okay. Taking this quick moment where Cloudsburn Bright is distracted. Okay, he's shuffling towards second base. Still got his storm above him. Doesn't have his bat.
As you are thinking, by the way, Cloudsburn Bright actually looks away from Suto, looking genuinely angry, which he doesn't normally. And he yells up towards the sky, "Take this seriously, girls! Look at him! Look at his suffering! Is that funny to you?"
He, oh gosh. Okay, he hears that. He hears "take this seriously, girls." And those words coming from a father that he knows just wants to raise his girls right echoes in him. And he too has had to have the moment where he had to tell his girls to take something seriously. They may not understand it, but they need to learn that there are certain situations that require a level of groundedness and seriousness that one day they will be able to understand. And listening to that, how messed up is my jaw? Can I really not say anything?
You could, experimenting with a little bit, you could do one of these.
All right.
Like no jaw movement. But your throat works.
Throat works. Because he wants to yell, he wants to essentially join Cloudsburn Bright and yell also at the girls to take this seriously. Of course, he can't really talk.
What would he say if he could?
See, they're young. So they would respond to something like 1, 2. With the girls understanding that at 3, that's when like the bad happens.
I'm going to let a +1 will defiance allow you to speak normally through your broken jaw for that.
So through his broken jaw, he tries to say, and maybe he does say, "Girls, take this seriously." And then as he is breathing, he continues to hear the giggle, and then he just says, "Girls, you have to tell the count of 3. 1!" And then at that, Suto steps forward. And then he is looking up at the rain above clouds burn bright.
Yep.
And then
you can see your pocket mischief riding on the cloud as though it were like the deck of a yacht.
Takes another step forward. 2! And as he says this, there is could my the storm above me be getting more violent, for lack of a better term?
I am A-okay with that.
All right, cool.
Reforming itself from where it had been pierced and dissipating.
And there's
the sharp yell of 2 stopped the giggling, and the rain is starting to subside.
Oh God, am I gonna do this?
This is a towing the line behavior that any parent is familiar with.
So basically, they're just trying to see. Is he really going to go?
How much can I get away with before something actually happens, and will it be bad?
Right. So the moment there's any slightest movement from any of the girls, when Suto yells,
we'll say a little extra of rain.
So Suto, he screams, I won't demonstrate for the sake of my neighbors. He'll scream 3. And at that, the idea is that he wants to essentially suck in and absorb the daughters, or at least maybe the younger, less powerful ones, into his storm. And then kind of for lack of a better term, quote unquote, toss them around. But really, it's a lot more controlled than it may seem to be.
What will that feel like? Is this going to be... Actually, Thunderclap's off a cooldown. Could use that.
Oh, man. Jeez, you're so generous. In that case, when he yells 3, he yells with a lot of force, but surprisingly, there's not a lot of noise that comes out. In fact, there's no noise, as instead it is again one of those reverse thunderclaps with stolen bass, and that force of him yelling is what is going to kind of draw in those girls to be a part of his storm.
You hear simultaneously 200 little voices go as they are drawn in from all sides of the arena, piled into the swirling condensed storm above your head. You hear the sounds half scared, half having fun of little of them blustering around, and it is every child's dream to go into a dryer and have it turn on, even if they don't know how bad that would be. And this would be the closest equivalent of that.
Yeah, no, that would be. That would be indeed. And so here's the thing. He has a storm bomb there, and then he is looking at clouds from bright, and then he wants a storm to slowly go down and be around him. Perk shutout. Weather effects can form around and follow Suto.
Nice. That's great. In that case, as they are doing so, you hear a couple of like little whimpers on the air, a couple of little vestigial like loopy giggles, and also you see a bevy of tiny little weather effects manifesting in the air around you. Everything from little pockets of tiny hail to little wisps of like clashing winds to little peals of thunder, just lacing through the air like mixing 100 different breakfast cereals together.
Nice.
As you are doing so too, Cloudsburn Bright, who is watching, gives his hawk-like seriousness has returned, gives one of his signature humorless "Ha!" and then says, "Numbers! Novel discipline method. How mundane, how elegant."
He can't respond, but in Suto's head, he thinks, well, you can't beat the classics. At that, okay, so he still has my bat, but I have his. He may have my bat, but I have his daughters. Okay, sweet. With that, the pseudo storm cloud continues to move again towards second base.
Yep.
How far away is he from there?
And now moving a little bit more purposefully, not because he's not healthier, but he is feeling a little better, I would imagine, after a bit of a win, even if it's a win in spirit. It's still an important win in spirit. You can see that as you step over, to take that position further from Cloudsburn Bright, you can see that he, rather than drawing anything from his eye, instead reaches to his mouth. And you can see that he cups his mouth kind of like this and peels a glyph from his chin.
Well, that's new. He's watching, but again, he really wants to go to where he wants to go. How far away am I?
You hear the giggled muddle of daughters still around you. Again, they're kind of somewhere between like a little scared but curious and loopy. A few of them in particular seem to be very fixated on going around, and you hear a little chorus of more from a few of them.
Okay. If I am at okay, all right. So they're just swirling around me, right?
Yep.
And then the cries of like more, that kind of excitement of anger turns into just general excitement. He is reminded of his girls just saying more, daddy, more. And then he's like, you want more? And then with that, he wants the storm to go a lot faster. And like,
there's still a couple of like wails of fear, but for the most part you just hear giggles and whoops of excitement from inside as the daughters go blustering around in a little cyclone around you. However, Cloudsburn Bright has taken the glyph and flicks it from his hand, almost like getting water off of your fingers after washing.
Now question, as it gets faster, during the time it gets faster, but before the glyph is thrown, do I have time to add the blue into that kind of cyclone and become essentially a lightning cyclone?
Ooh, that's very cool. I'm going to ask you how you want to do that, but it may change your action to know that he doesn't throw it at you. He throws it to the ground.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that does change things. But what he'll do is that he sees the girls and they're getting faster and faster and faster, and then when he hears the choruses of more, that's when he will jump with his billowing cape, helping him give that little bit of elevation into the kind of whirling storm. Again, if they want more, he will literally be there to give them more.
And as you jump in, you feel yourself whisked into your own storm, partially because it's not entirely under your control. They seem to have gotten some handle on your magic, probably because of their nature and their numbers, but they're still enjoying themselves and they're not interfering with it. You can see that the glyph that has been flicked to the ground has grown, swollen, enlarged into a great cat. A jaguar, pulsing with lightning in lieu of spots. its body made of roiling clouds, larger by far than any horse you have seen, closer in size to an elephant, though not quite as tall. As it does so, it roars, and its roar is a thunderclap. And as it does so, Clouds Burn Bright reaches out a hand, and as he touches its back, he almost, how to describe this? It's almost like he just drifts onto his back, just kind of touching it with his hand, as it goes charging up towards your great Cyclone.
Sorry, say that part one more time. I'm trying to imagine it.
Sure. He is mounting his steed as it rushes towards your Cyclone. It's, again, a great jaguar of clouds with great pulses and flashes of internal lightning in lieu of spots.
Got you. It's charging towards me, right?
Yep, charging towards your cloud. Your roiling storm, your massive cyclone of sprightly daughters, and your own power, of course.
And because this is what I want to do as Suto, obviously. He wants to kind of, as this cyclone and whatnot is happening, he's still kind of in out of the blue. Meaning that eventually there'll come a time when he can rematerialize. And what he wants is that as he wants to kind of angle the clouds so then the funnel is kind of inviting them in. He essentially wants to try to swallow CBB and his jaguar, and then that is when he wants to rematerialize as a person, kind of grab the end of that cyclone and then just...
Oh, goodness gracious. That's very exciting. So, in lightning form, whipping up and down the maelstrom, waiting for a moment for Clouds Burn Bright to enter. That's step one, yes?
Yes.
He obliges. He leaps inside, and you can see that his jaguar's great flashing claws of lightning begin to cleave the storm open.
Sure.
You can rematerialize behind him as this happens. You notice, by the way, that in your lightning form out of the blue inside of the maelstrom, you feel way more controlled than you almost ever have before, and you realize that the daughters are helping you move. They facilitate your travel through their domain, a fellow weather phenomena, at least at the moment.
Sure.
And as you are whipping through, it's almost like you hear their voices clearly. Where are you going? Where are you going? Can I come too? Where are you going? Oh, you're going there? Let me help. Where are you going now? Constantly.
Wonderful. Awesome. This cheers, in a way, this cheers Suto up. It turns from a fight to kind of, it's still a fight, but there's a part of him that has that feeling that he's almost playing kind of to a certain extent. And as that kind of sensation, as that kind of boosts up his spirits a little bit, would it be possible for him, I don't know how, but through his lightning form, suggest to the girls, hey, why don't you give your dad a hug?
Absolutely. I am A-okay with this.
All right.
Question.
In that case, that's the idea, in that as things are swirling around, he wants the suggestion, to the girls to give his dad a hug, to make it kind of tighter and harder as they start to kind of tackle, hug their dad. And that's, again, Suto wants to find the moment to dematerialize back to a person, to hold the end of that cyclone, and then toss it.
Vitality stat.
+1.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to check in. Because otherwise I was going to suggest a hearten, but that's a little low to get much out of it off of that. Especially because you're getting other things out of it too. They facilitate you zooming down to the base of the cyclone, and you also can tell as you're zooming down. It's less of a seeing thing and more of a awareness of what's happening in the storm thing. You can sense Clouds Burn Bright entering, hacking his way through, and you can also detect his influence over his daughters. Girls, desist! I am working at the moment. However, as you rematerialize, how are you going to grab the tail of the storm?
How am I going to grab the tail of the storm? So, great question. Yeah, that's a question that you asked. Would it be possible for, as he starts to materialize, I don't know how this will work, he materializes his hand his burnt ass hand into his catcher's mitt, and
Ooh, yes, okay with that.
that's what he uses to kind of grab the end of it, kind of using also a level of manifestation. Again, with this idea of like catching something to not have his mitt be ripped to shreds, hold it there, and then he puts his other very, very destroyed hand like on top, and then just like biting through the pain. This is how he's gonna hold it, and then this is how he's gonna.
Now, as Suto grabs, if you don't mind, something that, having been a baseball player myself in my youth, I remember all too well, is especially at the beginning of the season, when your hands aren't conditioned properly, catching very fast balls hurts horribly. And for the first couple practices, you are sore, and every impact of the ball is just miserable.
Yes.
Suto's raw hands, as they grab, even through his mitt, he feels this, as they grab onto the Cyclone. Imagine, if you will, trying to hold on. What's a good analogy here? Imagine trying to hold on to a steel pipe as it's turning at the speed of like a bicycle wheel with sore raw hands, right?
Yes.
It is a awful feeling. Just a grating, ripping, grinding. But I wouldn't be surprised if this sensation would trigger memories for him too, of deconditioned hands at the top of a season.
Deconditioned hands, top of the season. This is when things were young. This is when things were fresh, exciting. Everything was new. There was this idea of that, you know what, I could rise up and be something great again. Or can be something great just like my heroes. That's kind of like the kind of emotion that he kind of gets, feeling that kind of familiar pain.
Yeah, heroes who lift the bat, And the way that your hands, even though you're holding a glove, the way that your hands are stacked on the tail of the Cyclone is actually pretty much exactly a batting stance.
It is. It is indeed. That would be a bad idea. No, don't do that. But what if? But no, that would be a bad idea. Why would it be okay, this is all like encompassing CBB, right? Like he is in these clouds.
Yep.
Can I freaking, with this Cyclone bat, try to, as though like I'm looking at the sun, can I try to hit the sun and whack it away?
That's beautiful. That's really nice. 1 second, gotta process. This is a storm brewing. Yeah. As you swing for the sun, you realize something. You remember how Clouds Burn Bright was keeping the sun from setting in the mission you met him?
Yes.
How do you think he was doing that?
Through his, what's it called? When he was, like, preaching, showing off his greatness, and all these people were kind of worshiping him.
It's actually way simpler than that now that you realize. It was storm brewing.
This motherfucker.
And so as you swing with your own storm brewing, in the same way that he cut through yours with his, you slam his storm brewing out of the sky.
Yo!
It is actually night. And as you do so, your storm blasts apart in your hands. If you've ever seen what happens to wooden bats sometimes when a really good swing connects, they just explode, like shavings everywhere, wood all over the place. It's a disaster. And
Let's go.
As the storm erupts in your hands, you can see that a whole rain of bodies go flying out. Clouds Burn Bright's daughters enter their human form involuntarily, and with a series of they go flying out across the arena, landing in various states of disarray, some catching themselves on clouds, some landing on top of each other, and several landing on top of their father, who is in the midst of them all.
Now, as this is happening, it's nighttime. I know that is, while he's still very powerful, I'm sure he has a lot of essence in him, he doesn't have the infinite source anymore. Can I try to do what he did earlier and, like, hold out my hand to attract my bat?
Remind me of your arcane stat?
+4.
It flies to your hand.
Let's go! Oh! Okay. He's grunting in pain.
You can also see that the jaguar glyph is back on his jaw. And it's recognizable as like a jaguar's jawbone now that you know what it is. He is picking himself to his feet and like plucking daughters from him with his hands. Like, imagine like you know when you put clothes in the dryer and the socks are always stuck to the sheets.
Yes.
Imagine that with daughters stuck to him. You know what I mean? He's just plucking them off.
Sounds good. He, as he's doing so, Suto tries to size him up. How messed up are my fingers? Can I still grab things? Or are they basically stumps?
I will tell you right now, holding the bat, yes. Holding other things, Your hands were like welded to the bat in a gripping stance. And so doing anything besides grip a bat with them is very difficult. And even gripping a bat is painful as hell. Just completely raw. All skin gone, bleeding from a dozen locations, miserable.
Okay, got it. Ooh, okay. Got you. But yeah, no, if he is watching...
Oh, I should note, you also hear one of the daughters who's kind of near to you say, "Daddy, why is the sun gone?"
Lovely. Let's see. Sorry, just taking a look at what I have. Just for flavor purposes, even though my Vishivanka is off my person, could it just like as these things are happening just start to populate with like, I imagine it because it's a baseball jacket, just like these patches of like the things that are going on, like the...
You know, actually, I got one better for you. The Vishivanka, it's not a... There's been a lot going on. You've been to a lot of places. Do you want it to be close by?
Yes.
I am okay with it being close enough for you to take a couple steps and bend down to grab it.
Great.
And it would be populated with images, and you get to detail them too.
Now, here's the thing. Vishivanka is, let's see, magical great deeds performed on mission, pitched as they occur. Could I energy work that? So then all the things that I have been doing have been recontextualized. Him jumping off the cliff and then like flying back up is shown as him playing on a trampoline with his two daughters, even like holding one up and then promising that he'll catch her. The idea of running over to third base and even second base is in memory of him just like standing right there, just encouraging his daughter to like, come on, you can do it, and just like having them run towards him so then he can give him a big hug. The memory of heck, even like you know, the memory of like his daughters pounding his back is just when they were roughhousing. The memory of the time when he grabs Cloud's Boom Bright and then put him into a storm was in a very abstract way him just kind of like chasing around and like grabbing his daughters and like pretending like, I'm a monster, I got you, and they go, no, you got me.
I'm going to say that's one of the easier slam dunks on an energy work for a Vishivanka in this particular set of circumstances. And you would see that scattered around you, the many beautiful little girls, same skin tone as their father, but with like different patterning across them, reflecting the different weather phenomenon that they seem to each represent, each with their huge eyes, multicolored like their father's, each perfectly bald, each just wearing a little loincloth and a little chest wrappy thing, each of them tiny and small and not entirely human looking, but very cute, are just kind of staring at your coat as these images play across it.
How's my essence doing?
Terrible.
Okay, and my storm is gone, right?
Yeah.
Because I threw it. All right, so rain out does not apply. May I, though, as I am hallucinating and feeling very, very awful, pitch some suggestions?
Let's hear them.
Roughly, I am at quote-unquote second base, correct?
You've shifted around a little bit, so it's between second and the pitcher's mound, if we're looking at the arena like that.
Okay. He is kind of like stepping forward towards the pitcher's round, but then there's just like something about it, like this doesn't feel right. Like I need to. This doesn't
You
feel
keep
right.
seeing your girls in the faces of all of the daughters.
I keep seeing my girls, and it's just like this kind of confusing thing. It was like these aren't. I don't have that many girls, but these are clearly my girls. And then over to where first base is, out of the corner of Suto's eyes, sees the very familiar figure of Jane, his wife, during the time when he asked her to meet him at this place because he was planning to propose.
Proceed.
He kind of like, as he's watching this, he's kind of like okay, in his crazed up head, he's like, oh, that's where I gotta be. That's where I gotta be. And then like again, like he's holding on to this thing, but like as though he still kind of in pain, but like he still reaches over and like grabs over, and then he like holds something in his very, very messed up hand.
Nicely
he's like
done.
walking over towards first base.
Keep it going.
And as he does, holding on to this thing, the moon is shining. His wife is there. She's tired. She had just graduated gotten her master's degree after a long period of studying, and also after countless nights trying to also take care of Diana. And as he does so, he just thinks that this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. To me, she is everything. She represents my present, and I want her to be my future, because to me, she is my superhero. And that's at that moment, that's when he like kneels down and then like kind of like presents to the image of a mirage of Jane. Like he's holding out his very messed up hand, the star crystal. The entire time he was walking over, he was imbuing it.
Beautifully set up. Perfectly set up. And the star crystal flashes like a second sun. But the moon above, it radiates from your hand, and the light from it, it does the reverse of searing. It feels smooth and sleek and cooling. And you can see the patches on your, like the open wounds on your hands sealing over. You can feel the essence within you burble back up into yellow. Still frazzled, right? But no longer red. And
no.
You can see the memory of her look of shock and delight just as the hallucination vanishes. And you're left with the beautiful little crystal, now no longer sparking with light, there in your hand, looking very much like the eyes of Clouds Burn Bright and his daughters.
Does it look like a mini Aurora Borealis, though?
The light has left it, having entered you. It now is as smooth and hazy as a fog bank.
I'm trying to imagine, is it like a ring? Is this, because like again, he was imagining it like as a proposal ring.
Think of it as looking to his eyes now more like a snow globe, but a little fuzzier.
Oh, okay. Got you. No, don't do it, Suto. Don't do it. Not everything's a baseball. Don't do it. You just got this. Looks at Clouds Burn Bright.
and it flies clean into his hand.
Thanks. Needed that. Could I, and let me know if this is too much. So again, everything is a baseball. But the baseballs that he has been slinging mostly on his Enclave missions have been his own lightning bolts. Would there be a possibility of manifesting the ball such that it is just an inert ball, but then with the memory of all the times he's pulled out this exact move mission and mission over and over again, it kind of starts to crackle and crackle and then like explode into like a lightning bolt in his hand?
Ooh, jeez. So you're kind of reversing the order of one of your normal lightning bolts. Is that kind of correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in that case, do you wanna like start with a lightning bolt rather than going off of pure manifestation? Because you've manifested quite a lot. You're getting a little low.
I guess because like I was already holding the thing, the snow globe thing, right?
Yeah. In that case,
If you allow me to just kind of like as I'm holding this and I'm about to do like if there's like a little moment of like sleight of hand where he like kind of like reaches down and then he replaces the ball with like one of his
no, actually, I like your idea better. I like your idea better. So, in that case, as it raises, sparks to life with that I'm going to say last major manifestation.
Okay.
Strike sizzles through the air. And you can see that as Cloudsburn Bright raises up his hand to catch it, what would you like to do? Having swung, it's in midair.
It swung. It's in midair. He's about to catch it.
Yep. Thunderclap is off cooldown.
Let's see. Thunderclap is off cooldown. Technically, out of the blue is off cooldown. Oh, since you mentioned Thunderclap is off cooldown, would it be possible to retrofit the perk Hit and Run in that ball thing?
Reiterate the perk.
Energy from Thunderclap can be transferred and stored into an object Suto is holding and released on impact, concentrated on the point of impact.
I am A-okay with that.
Lovely.
And in that case, that actually makes the manifestation cleaner too, because you're
Nice.
kind of like condensing the Thunderclap into the Star Crystal Ball.
Yeah.
And as Cloudsburn Bright catches it, it detonates in his hand. He and various daughters go flying, them with little squeals of delight for the most part, a few with squeals of fear. And he goes, again, for a rare example of a relatively clean hit on him, though it mostly hit his arm, he overbalances and is flung backwards onto his back in the sand of the arena.
During that time, Suto was going to run back to home base position.
Yep.
And the concept that I wanted to do, and let me know how successful I was at that, probably not, was...
You've run the bases in reverse order.
Yes, he's run the bases...
That was very well set up.
Okay, good. He run the bases in reverse order, and as he did so, he was trying to focus some storm brewing because he wanted to manipulate the charges of each of those positions, kind of infusing them with to be more negatively polarized by manipulating the air with the storm brewing to be more positively.
You even lingered at each location. I'm A-okay with that.
And with that, Suto, he knows he doesn't have a lot of time, but he grabs the feathered cloak that he has. He doesn't have time to put it on, but what he'll do is, could I pitch that some of the daughters are lazily making some winds up in the sky?
I'm very okay with pitching that the daughters are fucking about with winds up in the sky.
in that case, that's when Suto, he will use his sneakers to get some extra
Yep.
elevation with that jump, and then he's kind of like holding out his feather cloak, almost like a hang glider kind of
Yeah.
thing, and that's what he uses to catch the wind. And again, he wants to go as high as he can, right? And so he has all this negativity down there, and he's all the way up here, and then
As
he
you are rising, by the way, the daughters, you would hear them in your ears again. You would feel them around you. These ones having re-entered their more elemental form. And you would hear, "Where are you going? Where are you going?"
He goes up, he goes up, he goes up. Easy pitch, there's a moon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Even
great.
established it earlier. So you're
Oh,
okay with that.
lovely, lovely, lovely.
You want a full moon? You can take a full moon.
It doesn't matter as long as there is a moon that kind of like
Great.
sunlight to
That's all you
that
need.
he can look at. And as he does so, there's just this moment of peace, and he just thinks to himself, everyone that he has met in the Enclave means so much to him. But above all, there's only the three people in his lives that are always there for him, that he always goes back to, that is what makes him the man that he is today. And with the memory of that very positive memory of his family in mind, I want it out of the blue in reverse. So normally in out of the blue, I go down and then I become lightning and I go down.
Yep.
In reverse, I want it to be ground to cloud lightning. So I want lightning to erupt from the ground and
beautiful. And you set the reverse polarity and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's
probably
wonderful.
freaking dead after this though.
And in that case, what is the ground to cloud lightning going to be doing?
What's it gonna be doing?
I
Well,
think I know, but talk me through it.
so what I imagine it to, if we can take some artistic liberty, there are like streaks of lightning that are coming from each of the bases,
Yep.
and then it just kind of in a very weird way, kind of like as it tries to stabilize the polarity in the air, kind of destabilizes the polarity going into towards the pitcher's mound.
Yep.
To eventually there is this like giant ground to cloud lightning that is centered at the pitcher's mound where I think CBB is.
Yep. And he would appear in front of you.
He's still hanging on to like his parachute, and he just smiles and he says, "All right, take your shot."
And as you do so, you see Cloudsburn Bright has a wild smile on his face. You've seen the smile before.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that he shakes his head. In this moment, the two of you are so high above, there are no daughters around you. And he says, "Strike me down."
Sorry, I'm just seeing what I have. Okay. Suto goes, "You really think I could have made like a good disciple or something?"
Ha! You are!
In that case, this one's personal. And then with that, he lets go, and then he grabs CBB, and then he out of the blue down.
And you strike the pitcher's mound in your own little mental map. And as you materialize with him like underneath you in pretty much a wrestling pin, you see that Cloudsburn Bright has closed his eyes and has gone limp in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pause, and then you hear from nearby, "Daddy? Daddy?"
At that, Suto, remembering the mission, lets go, puts his foot on CBB just as he did earlier, and then with his other foot on the small of his back. You think any of you guys are indomitable?
Daddy.
If I can do this to your dad, what do you think will happen to you?
One of the ones that looks older come closest. Oh, I want Daddy back.
Stop the acting now. I think they get the lesson.
Clouds burn bright, grunts faintly. He's still, from what Suto can see, in that ever so parental way, hamming it up. As you lift him to his feet, he rubs at his face. And he looks at his girls. He blinks and says, "Go to your room." And without a single peep, a single giggle, you see them flit away, becoming wind and cloud and snow. And they float over the edge of the cliff in all directions.
Once the daughters disappear, Suto wants to collapse against CBB.
Clouds Burn Bright puts an arm around Suto's shoulder and kind of thumps him on the back. He puts his other hand to Suto's cheek and gives like a little one of these.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I did good.
I feel as though I could conquer the world. How do you feel? Do you feel as though you could conquer the world?
Oh man, oh, and that he tries to like stabilize his feet, and he says, "The only thing I want to conquer is a nice warm shower back home."
My daughters only do cold, unfortunately, or I would offer.
I appreciate the hospitality. I feel he like frowns for a bit.
Do you feel like a child?
Yeah. And then with like a smile, just like one, just remembering the beauty of living, the beauty of the rush of going for that base, the beauty of finding the ones that you love, of spending time with people that you care about. You know, it's just kind of in this kind of like childlike, I wouldn't say stupor, but in a very innocent kind of way. Just goes, yeah, I do. Sorry to disappoint.
No. That was my mistake. It is not bad to feel like a child. I wish I could.
Well, if you ever want to learn how, and then at that, like Suto, he tries to reach into his pocket.
Yeah,
And then
he can.
Okay, sweet.
His stamina is low yellow, but not quite red.
Lovely. He wants to reach into his pocket. He is holding his wallet, and then he flips it out, and then there's like this little card reader, not card reader, but these kind of like mini wallet photo album. And at the very end, there is a picture of like Suto. He's holding his girls underneath his arms, and then he has Jane just like lazily like resting on top of his head. That's the photo that I'm pitching. Appears on the wall photo insert, and then he takes it out, and then he offers it to Cosmo, right? Come over for dinner sometime.
He holds it up kind of awkwardly like this. He says, and points to Jane and says, I thought you only had 2 daughters.
That would be my lovely wife.
He looks, like, bemused. What?
And then he was like, he looks, and then he just kind of gets like all mushy, like.
He says, you did not materialize them from your thought forms?
Oh, what? Well, let's just say that I think the universe works in mysterious ways, and I think that it liked me a little bit to materialize them into my life.
He says,
Aren't they beautiful?
yes. Lovely. Lovely. He says, I do not eat, but I will join you.
Maybe then I can teach you a thing or two. Just like you've taught me today.
Oh, yes. No doubt. So I have learned recently. Numbers. Numbers to make children do what you wish them to. Very interesting.
Listen, you can't beat the classics.
Classic.
Well, we'll talk about that later. By the way, have you ever played baseball before?
And as you say this, he says, no, but I know what it is now. I looked at your file in the Enclave. Game. Yes, games please the seasons at times.
They do, don't they? They bring joy to the people that are cheering for you. There's that excitement. And you can't beat the rush.
Yes.
Can't beat the rush of just running around
And you can
those bases.
sacrifice the winners to appease an angry harvest.
And okay, well, let's workshop that. Well, Well, you can do that. There are other ways. Like you can get a really big cup. Oh God, what do you call it? Chalice. You can get like a really big chalice, and it's really cool.
Does it appease the harvest?
Yes. But
Sounds
only
useful.
for 1 year, and then we need to compete again to see which team will have the chalice to appease the harvest. And he's just like looking all over the place as he's saying this.
And Clasburn Bright says, yes, then your chalice we will claim sometime.
Yes! The great national game!
Yes, plenty to conquer, horizons to dominate. He hands you something in return.
Mm-hmm.
You can see he hands back the photo, and on top of the photo is an Enclave badge.
Wait, no. No, we just got you back.
Ha! There are other matters to tend to.
I can learn so much from you.
You can. But right now, I need to go to my girls.
In that case, I'll keep this safe for you. And then he holds out his hand for a handshake.
Cloudsburn Bright, rather than doing that, takes him by the chin like that.
Oh, okay.
And says, remember, you are at war with the world through your eyes. Locris was not incorrect about that. Look to the horizon. Conquer. Triumph. And think of me.
There's this feeling that Suto's not familiar with. Because he's never really thought about conquering things before, but all of a sudden this idea of like achieving more, improving that. Just a little spark of it.
Cloudsburn Bright steps away from Suto, peels his jaguar glyph from his face, throws it to the ground. The great beast manifests with a blast of thunder from its jaws. He takes the nape of its neck, and as though drifting behind it, The jaguar leaps from the edge of the mountaintop and plunges down its side. And as this
With clouds
happens...
from bright, right?
What?
With clouds from bright, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And as this happens, you feel your Enclave badge ping.
He doesn't ping out right away. He looks at, he gets his badge. It's where he always wants it to be. Takes it out. Then he looks at the badge that Clouds from Bright gave him. And then stuffs the one that Clouds from Bright gave him in his pocket. Kind of gives it like a safety tap. And he says, ugh. Yes, it's 1, 2, 3 strikes are out of the old ball game. Taps.
And on that note, we will end the mission.
Ah!
Welcome to level 10.
You gave me so much help. Ah! Ah!
Well, that's often what happens on solo missions. I get to reward your efforts just that bit more. And you made it easy to do. You set up beautiful poetry. You had plays going, in some cases, over an hour before you executed on them. You matched my symmetry. You matched everything that I was trying to do. And so, of course, I'm going to give you a little more.
Oh, thank you.
Beautifully done. Do you have questions for me?
So even though I have an idea of how you use the focus words, I would like to hear from you specifically how you interpret them, even though I have ideas.
Sure. 50 Thunderbirds in a Closet was where I started. I originally established on the first mission when he mentioned his daughters. I had it established that he had 200 daughters that he immaculately conceived, and I thought it was a nice parallel to Suto, so I wanted to make sure that that was the focus of the mission to some degree. Promise, I felt tied also into the family dynamic, meaning something deeper sort of feel. And in this case, I chose to interpret it as a father, frankly, a kind of a hopeless father, like Clouds Burn Bright, who's not the nurturing type, trying to fulfill his oath to his children to raise them well. And, pardon me, I thought I was being asked for help. Then, for prove that you are the better bird, that one I think is the most obvious.
Correct.
It was a repeat of your earlier duel. I knew that if it was a straight both of you trying to kill each other duel, it would not be very fair or fun. And so
obliterated.
I thought that having it be something where he would not be holding back, but he was trying. He had a different goal than winning, right? Was what I wanted to achieve here, right? Because I thought it would be more fair and fun for you, and it's more meaningful, frankly, and it's more interesting. And so because of that, he ramped up, right? He didn't hit you with everything in the first place. That's kind of his style anyways. But also I wanted to make sure that the daughters were available to kind of help, which they ended up doing in a couple of instances, quite a bit. And also hampering him, which you initially initiated with your pocket mischief, but there was of course other ways to set that up as well. That is how I chose to do the focus words. Do you have questions or thoughts on that?
Not necessarily. I will say I thought, Promise came from this idea of what the last time that they had met, there is this idea that, you guys would be great Thunderbirds under my tutelage and whatnot. And while Promise was still this idea of we will meet again and I will help you become something greater.
Of course. I tried to purposefully subvert that on this.
Fair enough, but I feel like in its own weird way it ended up happening.
It was still there, you know what I mean?
But not overtly. Which
exactly. I didn't want it to be the focus, right? Because I thought it was more fitting to do it this way.
It was. I will say, when I was going over the focus words in my head, I'm like, did I give Robbie a duel with Clouds Burn Bright?
Yes.
He's not
you did. That's precisely what you gave me.
Yep. I'm like, oh, it's one of those things where I didn't realize until it happened much, much later. But no, in terms of questions, I guess what was that kind of ramping up, like almost like you're on a motorcycle.
Oh,
Kind
I
of.
see. Yeah, in that case, it was purely him setting up for the drawing back action to grab your bat. It was him doing
Ah,
his kind of like. I try to represent Clouds Burn Bright as doing something vaguely similar to Avatar style bending when he does his magic.
mm-hmm,
Um, I don't want it to be exactly like that. I don't think it's as quite as martial arts focused, but
mm-hmm.
still he takes stances. You know what I mean? And so I was trying to misdirect you with that to think that he was going to conjure in his mount. Um,
I thought yes, and that was successful.
yeah. So like that was that was me trying to throw you some curveballs, because I was like, the plot felt due for an injury, if that makes sense, and I was like, let's see if Meek can get around this one. And that
It
ended
didn't.
that
No,
yeah
but
that one ended up being the really nasty hit.
yes, no. I mean, like getting hit in the back 5 times. I think was it felt like the biggest like egg on my face kind of moment where it's like, dude, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position. You got hit a lot, but like
Oh yeah.
I found a way to kind of like fit it into the narrative. I
Oh
hope.
totally. And also the choosing the billowing cape on your back at the beginning of the mission literally saved your life there. Four
Yes.
lightning bolts plus a admittedly like not high power out of the blue. That's brutal if you don't have direct magic protection on the exact location. So,
Low key, like I hear a lot of people say that the billing cape is kind of useless. So like I like to think this is this little retribution.
well, the other thing is the billowing cape. I think that was the best way you could have done the hot air rising thing at the very beginning. So
Mhm.
it ended up just being perfect for those two situations, right? Which goes to show that in Enclave, it's rare that something is ever like so bad it's unusable.
Mhm.
Things can get be less useful on average, but everything has most things at least have some niche. Not to say it doesn't need a buff, but whatever, it does. Uh, Still, you got to get some good use out of it here. Do you have any other questions for me about the calls I made or the plot?
Yes, one last thing. The I was a little bit confused about after I had used up the star crystal, it was this kind of snow globe thing, but not really. That I felt like power go into my eye. I could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so the idea was that the radiant light was entirely just its effect hitting you, and then afterwards it was less bright. It had less power within it. Um, any lingering traces you felt past that were mostly me just trying to do poetic flourishes. But if I
I
misdirected with them, I apologize.
I wasn't sure if you were setting something up because like this
I
is
was
something
thinking
that like
about it. I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to be a douche, really. Like
no, that's fair. That's fair. I will say like there's this moment of like it's like Suto has accepted something from Clouds Burn
from his
Bright,
enemy. Oh,
and
is he
he's
going to
like,
turn it against him? Right.
"Fuck it, take it back."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Clap that fish.
No, I get you there. And there was a moment where I was like, well, maybe I could do something interesting with this, and then I was like, nah, there's too much else going on.
There's a
I
lot,
it felt incorrect for pacing. Um,
but yeah, no, that was it. That was it in terms of my questions. That was
Beautiful. I cannot think of many better ways to have sent off the character. I hope you agree, and to get
I.
him to level 10. He is such a wonderful presence in Enclave. I thank you tremendously for playing him so beautifully. And yeah, we love Suto. I feel like everyone loves Suto, and there's very good
Oh,
reason for that. So you've done a brilliant job with the character. You did a brilliant job on this mission. I hope you feel a little bit more confident with solos because I thought you did great. Solos tend to be more pressure on the players by quite a
mm,
lot. But it means that as a conduit, I'm able to give you more opportunities to be rewarded for rising to the occasion.
mm, fair enough.
So I think
Did you
for me as a host, solos are my personal favorite things to host in Enclave.
chat? You are confusing me with those knots. Listen, I am not that smart after 5 o'clock. Like, chill. But thank you guys so much. And like I said at the beginning, like it's the characters that Pseudo met along the way that like really made the character. I will share that there's one or two ways that this mission could have gone. One of them it ended up being the most obvious way, but the less obvious way was the idea of conjuring up the memories
Yeah.
and manifesting the memories of all the people that he has met, to the point where I have on this screen a list of characters and like
Ooh,
the kind of abilities that I would like manifest concerning
that's
each.
so cool. I could have seen that. I could have seen that, but it's definitely not the sort of thing we would have been able to force. You know, it would only
Yeah,
have
no,
happened if it made sense.
for sure, for sure. Again, like you kind of set me up with the whole daughters thing. I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
all right, let's do this. Let's do this
Yeah,
family
like I said
drama.
with the focus words, 50 Thunderbirds in a closet and promise were just too good focus words for that. And from what I know about Suto and what I've established about Clouds Burn Bright, to ignore. Uh, and I think that is where we will call it. For everyone in chat, I'll probably pop over to Assembly if you want to blab afterwards, which I'm happy to do. And for everyone watching on YouTube, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this little piece of Enclave history being made. What a fantastic first level 10. This is, I could not have asked for better. Meek, you want to leave us with anything before we sign off?
Enclave has been a big part of my life for the past over 6 months at this point. It has been my escape as things have gotten, just busy and, hard as adult life goes on. It is a great game to pick up just to, at the very least, have fun, feel like you can do anything for a short few hours. I hope that, if you have not already started playing the game, that you hopefully take inspiration to give it a shot. Thank you.
And the last thing I will leave you guys with is, to Meeks directly, beautifully done. Could not have asked for better. And with that, until next time, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.